Good day, everybody. It's Andrew here, and welcome back to my channel. We've got a lot of huge updates regarding stimulus checks for seniors. What's happening with the next stimulus package now that Joe Manchin kind of torpedoed this entire plan? Will it still happen? What do we expect to happen next? What did the White House just say? And the fact that Mitch McConnell is kind of inviting Joe Manchin to join the Republican Party. So we're going to discuss all of this in this video, but before we do me a quick favor, hit like, hit subscribe, and share this channel with anyone who you think might find this helpful. This is a community for seniors, and my job here is to be a voice for you, be a voice for seniors, and make sure President Biden keeps his word to increase Social Security benefits, increase SSI and ssdi, and even include a stimulus check for seniors in this next stimulus package. So this is my job and this is our community. Thank you so much for being a part of it. And if you really want to support my work, subscribe to my second channel. On that channel, I'm going to be giving away stimulus checks. We're going to have some updates as well, but we're also going to have fun things like bingo. You can play bingo with me live. We're going to play casino games, play the lottery, things like that to kind of have a good time and build a community there as well. But thank you so much for supporting my work, and let's jump right into the updates. So Bernie Sanders is fuming as he is the main Democrat putting together the stimulus package. He's also trying to include a stimulus check for seniors, and we've talked about it for months. It's going to be anywhere between $1,000 and $2,000, but now Joe Manchin is saying he doesn't want to do the plan at all. Well, the good news is, folks, we're probably going to get the stimulus package. First of all, I want to start there. It's going to be delayed. It's probably going to be trimmed down even more, but we're still most likely going to get the package, right? Joe Manchin, to be honest with you, was kind of an emotional reaction he had. We'll talk about that in a second, where the White House said something about Joe Manchin. That didn't sit well, and then he kind of blew up. Almost like a husband in a marriage who kind of flipped out of emotion, right? And he's going to backtrack. They're going to get it done. He's already kind of said, like at first he blamed President Biden. Then he said, oh, you know what? It was actually his staff, not President Biden. Now he's saying, you know what? If we do this, this, and this, we can probably do the stimulus package. So we're going to get the stimulus package, folks. But of course, it's going to be delayed. So unfortunately, we're not going to get stimulus checks by Christmas. But quite frankly, I do think that we're still going to get stimulus checks for seniors. I do think Bernie Sanders is going to continue to fight for that, and I think he'll get it. And I do think we'll still get Social Security increases in 2022. But let's do a quick recap of everything currently going on. Now, first of all, do West Virginians back Joe Manchin's plan to oppose the Build Back Better stimulus package? Now, the surprising thing is, first of all, this is Fox News, but Fox News found hundreds of people in Virginia who say they're opposed to the Build Back Better stimulus package. But then when you ask them if they would like a stimulus check for seniors, over 90% of them support that, right? So it basically seems like there's a lot of people in West Virginia who agree with Joe Manchin when it comes to like the monthly stimulus payments for families, opposing kind of the coal mining and putting funding in there for electric vehicles and things like that. But it seems like the stimulus checks, and especially the stimulus checks for seniors, have a lot of strong support. West Virginia has a strong senior population, and a lot of them live either in poverty or near the poverty line. So it makes sense that people in West Virginia support stimulus checks for seniors. And this is a good sign, folks, because this means that Joe Manchin, although he's going to try and cut other things out, like monthly stimulus checks for families, there's a good chance maybe he'll allow Bernie Sanders to include stimulus checks for seniors. Not just because of that, but it's also actually cheaper. Now, a one-time stimulus check is a lot cheaper than monthly stimulus checks for families, right? That's what Joe Manchin's concerned about, that families are going to keep getting a stimulus check every single month, and then after 2 years of that, 3 years of that, they're never going to be able to cancel it, right? And it's going to be a permanent thing that's going to continually cost the country hundreds of billions of dollars. Not to say families don't need help, but the fact that it's more expensive makes it harder to get it included. Now, Mitch McConnell is basically inviting Joe Manchin to join the Republican Party. And quite honestly, if Democrats still had the majority without him, the Democrats would probably be pushing him out at this point, right? Now, Mitch McConnell says he'd welcome Manchin to the GOP if he was so inclined. Mitch McConnell says he doesn't fit well with the Democrats. Now, this is kind of a complicated thing, right? Because when Joe Manchin came out a couple days ago and said, we're closing down the stimulus package, I'm not doing it, a lot of people were speculating, including myself, that, hey, maybe Joe Manchin is heading to the Republican Party, right? Because West Virginia votes 70% Republican at this point, but somehow Joe Manchin still won the election. And a lot of people were saying he's going to torpedo the stimulus package. That way, when he runs for re-election in 2024, he's going to run as a Republican and say, hey, I stopped the Build Back Better stimulus package, so vote for me as a Republican. If ever Joe Manchin was going to flip, if ever he was going to flip, it would be now, right? So although we don't know whether or not this is going to happen, quite honestly, when I sit back and the dust kind of settles, I don't think it's going to happen, right? He's been a Democrat his whole life. Culturally, that's kind of a cultural kind of situation. I really don't think he's going to switch, but if he does, it's going to be now, right? So we're keeping our eye out for that. And if he did switch, technically Democrats would lose their majority, and it's happened before, folks. It happened to President Bush, so it is something that could potentially happen. Now, insiders in D.C. have said that they know the real reason why Joe Manchin broke down the plan, and Joe Manchin himself actually admitted it. So bottom line here, it looks like he was upset because the White House said some things about him openly and also by leaking it to the press that really, quite frankly, teed him off. So first of all, the White House does their press conferences. They do multiple per day, and they do press releases on their website. They'll do like 5 to 10 press releases every single day. And apparently on one of their press releases on Thursday or Friday, they said they were moving forward with Build Back Better, but basically blamed Joe Manchin for slowing down the process. Now, that's nothing that's intense. That's nothing too crazy. But apparently Joe Manchin had an agreement with President Biden and said, hey, neither of us are going to be aggressive towards each other. We're not going to be aggressive in the media. We're not going to make each other look bad. We're going to be friendly about this, and we're going to be respectful. Even though it was kind of a light type of thing that the White House said in their press conference, in their press release, Joe Manchin got upset. And then secondly, I think what really sent Joe Manchin over the edge is the White House staff. So it's unknown, but someone who works for President Biden, they actually leaked to the press that Joe Manchin said that he was worried that families who are getting monthly stimulus checks were going to use the money to buy drugs. Now, if that doesn't sound offensive, I don't know what does. Because think about it, folks. Let's say you got a stimulus check, or even stimulus checks for seniors were getting approved. And Joe Manchin said, no, we shouldn't do stimulus checks for seniors because they're going to use it to buy drugs. I mean, that kind of blanket statement is quite frankly offensive, right? It's almost like you're saying anyone who's low income uses drugs type of situation, right? So that was pretty messed up, and people are speculating that this, in fact, is what sent Joe Manchin over the edge, right? This was an emotional response. This is something Joe Manchin did out of kind of, and it was an impulsive, emotional reaction. And this kind of makes sense, right? If this is something that really pushed him over the edge, it makes sense that he's kind of going to backtrack. He's not really going to cancel the stimulus plan, but he was actually on radio kind of defending why he decided to cancel the stimulus package. So let's take a quick look and see what Joe Manchin said.
I wonder, after all of these months of negotiating, what it was that changed for him to now say definitively no. Listen to what he's saying about his thinking today.
You know me, always willing to work and listen and try. I just got to the wit's end, and they know the real reason what happened. They won't tell you, and I'm not going to because.
Wait. You said they know the real reason. They're not going to tell us. You're not going to tell us. What do you mean? What's the real?
Well, the bottom line is there's basically, and it's staff. It's staff driven. I understand staff. This is not the president. It's the staff. And they drove some things, and they put some things out that were absolutely inexcusable. They know what it is, and that's it.
What's your message to Manchin right now?
Strange that this leader in the Senate, who has been working for scores of hours with the president on this incredibly important legislation, at the last minute would blame it on White House staff. And you notice the way that he made his announcement. He had a staffer go over to the White House before he was to go on the news yesterday.
So that's essentially what we think happened here. Joe Manchin said, I'm not going to say what it was, but they said some things and they leaked some things to the press that really upset me and really broke the trust that he thought he had with President Biden. But as Democratic Representative Dean here said, that's not Joe Biden, right? So if one of his staffers did something, why are you going to totally break down negotiations because the president's assistant said something, right? That's not the president. That's his assistant. So let's be grown-ups here. Let's be adults. Even though someone upset me, someone made me feel bad, let's keep the negotiations going, right? The president didn't say that. One of his staffers did. So that's a really good point here. And quite honestly, it almost seemed like at first he was blaming President Biden, but then he kind of switched gears and said, no, it wasn't Biden, it was his staffer, right? He kind of backtracked. Then he said, well, we're going to cancel the stimulus package, but then he backtracked and said, well, maybe we could do it if we do this, this, and this, right? So he's not really canceling the stimulus package, folks. He kind of had a crybaby attitude. He blew up. This is not going to cancel the package. It's my opinion, but guys, the writing is on the wall. Negotiations will continue. So although Joe Manchin continues to defend the fact that he's opposing the bill, he's already kind of bending and saying, okay, we could do it if this, that, and this. Now, he also held another interview on the radio talking about the fact that he's defending his decision to say he's canceling the package. So let's take another quick look and see what Joe Manchin said.
This morning, West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin not backing down from his decision to not support the president's Build Back Better plan. In fact, in the last hour, Manchin expanded on that stunning announcement during a local radio interview. And he also responded to the blistering criticism from the White House and from his fellow Democrats.
I'm not blaming anybody. I knew where they were, and I knew what they could and could not do. They just never realized it because they figure, surely to God we can move one person. Surely we can badger and beat one person up. Surely we can get enough protesters to make that person uncomfortable enough. They'll just say, okay, I'll vote for anything. Just quit. Well, guess what? I'm from West Virginia. I'm not from where they're from, and they can just beat the living crap out of people and think they'll be submissive. Period.
Well, the White House called the Manchin announcement a, quote, sudden and inexplicable reversal and accused the senator of breaching his commitments. The big question this morning, where do the White House and Democrats go from here? I'm joined now for the very latest. NBC White House correspondent Mike Memoli, NBC News' Sahil Kapoor from Capitol Hill, and also NBC's Julie Sirkin joining me now from Charleston, West Virginia, on the ground force there. Mr. Memoli, I'll start with you. Jen Psaki's statement on Sunday pulled no punches. Our reporting indicates that the president signed off on that blistering statement before it was released. How are Manchin's latest comments expected to go over there?
Yeah, Craig, I think it was so striking the way the White House responded yesterday in that statement from Jen Psaki. I know I've heard the president say this countless times before. I know you have as well. He says the way he operates in politics is you never question somebody else's motivations. You can question their judgment, but not their motivations. And he's talked about that as one reason why he's had such great success working across the aisle throughout his time in the Senate and now in the White House. That statement came awfully close, though, to questioning Senator Manchin's motivations. It talked about the fact that the president invited Manchin to his home. They had breakfast a few weeks ago in Delaware. It talked about the fact that, for the first time, revealing that Senator Manchin had come to the Oval Office, met with the president in person, put down on paper the outline of what he would agree to, what he would be willing to support. And then, as you mentioned, the statement goes on to say that the senator, in the White House's view, breached his commitments to the president and to fellow Democrats. Now, one way to look at some of the comments that Senator Manchin made this morning, in which he really lights up the White House staff, not the president himself, but the White House staff, is to, at least for now, signal to some in the White House that there's some openness on the part of the senator to working with the president moving forward. I think the biggest head scratcher to a lot of Democrats, including many in the White House, was the timing of the senator's announcement. After the Senate had adjourned for the year, there's no legislation written. We're still waiting for the parliamentarian to green light or veto some of the elements of the plan. So why was he calling it sort of quits at this point? That's one of the things that the White House will be now reaching out to and trying to get a better sense of. But there's certainly a lot of steam being blown off here at the White House and elsewhere in the Democratic Party.
So the White House was quite frankly flabbergasted by this, right? They were completely caught off guard. Joe Manchin had told President Biden, hey, we're going to keep working together. We're going to figure it out. We're going to compromise, and it's going to get done. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, he even gave President Biden a written outline like, here, this is what I'll approve. And Joe Biden was working towards that, right? Hoping that Joe Manchin would compromise, but they were working towards a written statement of what Joe Manchin said he would support. Now, does that include the stimulus checks for seniors? Probably not, but that's something that Bernie Sanders will continue to fight for, and we do expect that to get done as well. And again, as they said on this latest video that I just showed, Joe Manchin has already signaled that he's willing to compromise, he's willing to keep working on the package, so he's already backtracked, right? And he already said, I'm not blaming President Biden, I'm blaming his staffers, right? So Joe Manchin had a little drama king event, a little drama queen day. He got it out of his system, and now we're going to keep working on the stimulus package. So that's the bottom line here, folks. We had some drama. We're always having drama in politics. Joe Manchin continues to make a name for himself. He continues to get himself in the press. Almost makes me wonder, is Joe Manchin going to run for president in 2022 or 2024, for God's sakes? It almost feels like if there's gonna be anyone else to run for president on the Democratic side besides President Biden, it's gonna be Joe Manchin, guys. And let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think. Again, there's also the idea that he might flip to the Republican side, but that would be kind of weird if he flipped and then ran for president after being Democrat his whole life. But we'll have to wait and see. I mean, if he torpedoes the bill and then runs as a Republican, that would kind of make sense. But sorry, folks, we're getting a little off track here. But basically the point is now Democrats are saying, Chuck Schumer said in the Senate, they're going to quickly bring this to a vote in the beginning of January. So they're going to put the pressure on Joe Manchin and make him vote no and basically go to the press and say, hey, Joe Manchin is voting no on checks for seniors. Joe Manchin is voting no on monthly stimulus checks for families. They're going to keep putting the pressure on Joe Manchin, and that's the current plan. They plan to put even more pressure on Joe Manchin. Now, we've seen Joe Manchin crack under pressure, right? We saw him blow up, but we think he got it out of his system, and now the Democrats are going to keep bringing this to a vote, right? They're going to keep forcing Joe Manchin. If Joe Manchin, you want to vote no? Keep voting no, and then every day we're going to go to the press and say, hey, Joe Manchin voted no on checks for seniors. Joe Manchin voted no on monthly stimulus checks for families. Joe Manchin voted no on lowering prescription drug prices. And they're just going to hammer the guy, right? So how's Joe Manchin going to respond? Is he going to compromise and get things done like a grown person, like an adult? Or is he going to flip out and have a little hissy fit again? We'll have to wait and see what happens next. But we expect to have a lot of updates, folks, so don't forget to subscribe, and I will keep you posted as things develop on the next stimulus package, stimulus checks for seniors, and Social Security changes as well. Now, of course, the White House and Press Secretary Jen Psaki got asked a lot of questions about Joe Manchin, why negotiations broke down, what they expect to happen next, and what the plan is to get the stimulus package done next year. So if you'd like to stick around, see what Jen Psaki had to say, let's take a look. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you on the next video.
Senator Manchin this morning in a radio interview said this is staff, and they drove some things that they put some things out that were absolutely inexcusable. They know what it is, and that's it. Do you know what he's referring to there, and do you have a response to his comments about the staff?
I don't. I would point you to Senator Manchin to outline further.
And then can you walk through, and I know you don't want to talk about yesterday's statement, but the cost benefit of, you guys have been so cautious, I think at the president's direction, of never speaking ill or laying out details of negotiations, what the calculation was by deciding to put out a 700 plus word statement being very clear about, I think, some palpable anger inside the White House related to a critical vote in the caucus.
Well, I think Senator Manchin had a strong statement yesterday, and we had a strong statement as well. And we're ready to move forward and get this done and work like hell to do that. With Senator Manchin, with members of the Democratic caucus, across the Democratic Party, and that's our focus moving forward. But that was our basis of our calculus yesterday.
And just one more quick one. My understanding is what Senator Manchin put on the table, which you referenced in your statement, was it a final offer? It hadn't been rejected. It was kind of a process that was underway. What is the process now? Are you working through proposals? Is staff dealing with policy issues? Where do things go from here in terms of the actual proposal?
Well, clearly the next couple of weeks will be important and pivotal and certainly involve high-level staff engagements, involve the president and his engagements directly with members. And we have been engaged with leadership, with members of the Senate and their staff over the course of the last 24 hours to talk about the path forward. You saw, I'm sure, Leader Schumer's statement this morning, and we will stay in close touch and in close coordination with him and his team on the path forward in January.